In 1992, a construction crew demolishing an abandoned psychiatric hospital in Cedar Hollow, Pennsylvania, made a discovery that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Behind a false wall in the basement, they found 347 video cassettes. This isn't just another ghost story or urban legend. This is documented fact. Court records, police reports, medical files. I have them all. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why 30 years later, the government is still desperately trying to keep this story buried. She never arrived. Her car was found on Route 322, engine still running, purse on the passenger seat, no signs of struggle. The last person to see her was a gas station attendant who remembered her buying coffee and asking for directions to Cedar Hollow. Each tape was labeled with a single name and a date. Jennifer Walsh sits across from a man in a doctor's coat. But something is immediately wrong. Jennifer's eyes are vacant, unfocused. She responds to questions, but her answers make no sense. What those tapes contained was so disturbing that the FBI immediately classified them at the highest level of secrecy. Not runaways or crime victims, but those who disappear without a trace, leaving behind lives that seemed perfectly normal. Drop a comment and tell me if you know someone who just disappeared one day. Because after hearing this, you might want to look into their case again. But last month, a former agent broke his silence, and what he revealed changes everything we thought we knew about missing persons cases in America. Cities underneath the hospital, rooms that exist outside of time, children who aren't really children. According to her husband, she was planning a surprise party for their daughter's birthday the weekend she disappeared. The doctor, identified in records as Dr. Marcus Vale, takes notes without expression. Before I share what was on those tapes, I need you to understand something. No drug use. No trauma. She had picked up decorations the night before. Dr. Vale reaches across the table and places his hand on Jennifer's forehead. My daughter. Oh God. Sarah's birthday is Saturday. Please, I'm not sick. There's been a mistake. There's a flash of light, not from the camera, but from his hand itself. When he removes it, Jennifer has changed again. Now she's crying, begging to go home, completely lucid. She's never seen on camera again. But her name appears on 23 more tapes over the next 3 months. Audio only. Screaming. Cedar Hollow State Hospital opened in 1923 as a progressive treatment center for the mentally ill. But the tapes reference sublevels 4 through 9, floors that shouldn't exist. Floors that, according to architectural plans, couldn't exist. Let me start where it all began, with a missing person named Jennifer Walsh. By 1975, it had become something else entirely. Something that would make the most hardened investigators weep when they finally uncovered the truth. Each one had disappeared without explanation between 1974 and 1985. And each one showed the same pattern. Arrival in a confused state, some kind of treatment that defied medical explanation, then either docile compliance or transfer to something called sublevel 4. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Very common in cases of acute stress disorder. We're here to help. She sits perfectly still, hands folded, speaking in a monotone voice that sounds almost robotic. Have you ever wondered what happens to people who simply vanish? Have you ever had a medical procedure and lost time? Went in for something routine and came out hours later with no memory of what happened. Most people assume it's just the anesthesia. His editor reported him missing when he failed to return from what was supposed to be a routine interview. The tape shows him in the same intake room, but he's fighting. That question haunted Detective Raymond Burke for 18 years, until the day those tapes were discovered. But what if sometimes it's something else? White walls, fluorescent lights, a metal table. The missing people, the underground facilities, the experiments. You can't just make me disappear like the others. October 15th, 1974. Jennifer Walsh, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher from Harrisburg, kissed her husband goodbye and drove to work. Why would a teacher from Harrisburg need directions to a psychiatric hospital 40 miles away? Tape number 73 was labeled J. Walsh, October 15th, 74. The footage begins in what appears to be a standard hospital intake room. Throughout it, Jennifer speaks in riddles and fragments, describing impossible things. Doctor, state your name for the record. Jennifer, the leaves are screaming today. Doctor, your name, please. Jennifer, I used to have a name. Before the doorway opened. Now I'm just an echo. Same room, same doctor. But Jennifer Walsh is completely different. The interview continues for 47 minutes. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. Jennifer Walsh had no history of mental illness. So how did a healthy, stable woman end up in a psychiatric hospital, speaking like someone in the grip of severe psychosis? Each one was a different person. The answer was on tape 74. This footage was dated just 1 day later. Jennifer, Phase 1 integration complete. Neural pathways successfully mapped. Subject ready for harvest. Doctor, excellent. And the original personality? Jennifer, suppressed, intact, stored for potential retrieval if needed. I've seen the reports. What happens next is why these tapes remained classified for 3 decades. Jennifer, please, I don't know how I got here. My husband must be worried sick. Dr. Vale makes a note. Then he speaks into a recorder. Subject shows strong resistance to initial conditioning. Recommend immediate escalation to Phase 2 protocols. Transfer to Sublevel 4 for processing. The tape ends with Jennifer being led away by 2 orderlies. Detective Burke had found one piece of the puzzle. But Jennifer Walsh was just the beginning. Remember those 347 tapes? The official records of Cedar Hollow State Hospital show it had 3 floors and 1 basement level. Unless they weren't building down. Unless they were building somewhere else entirely. Let me pause here and ask you something. The next major breakthrough came from tape 156. M. Chun, March 22, 78. Michael Chun was a journalist from Philadelphia who had been investigating a series of disappearances in the Lehigh Valley. Michael, I know what you're doing here. Dr. Vale, Mr. Chun, you're experiencing paranoid delusions. Very common in cases of acute stress disorder. We're here to help. Michael, I sent copies of everything to my editor, to the FBI, to anyone who would listen. You can't cover this up forever. Dr. Vale remains calm. Too calm. He lunges for the door, but the orderlies are already there. As they drag him away, he screams something that chills my blood even now. Your editor thinks you're on vacation in Florida. Your girlfriend received lovely postcards. He nods to someone off camera. Dr. Vale, Mr. Chun, I'm afraid you're mistaken about one crucial detail. You didn't send anything to anyone. You've been here for 3 weeks. The look of horror on Michael Chun's face is something I'll never forget. By tape 203, he's sitting calmly, discussing his treatment with Dr. Vale like they're old friends. His voice is different. Peaceful. Empty. The one where I was a journalist seemed so limited. This new perspective is ... expansive. Michael. The basement. They're building doorways in the basement. They're letting them through. The word hangs in the air like a curse. Dr. Vale's response is clinical, emotionless. The tape cuts off. Michael Chun's name appears on 47 more recordings. But the real number was much higher. The basement tapes reference processing centers in 12 other states, all connected by something called the network. Oh, the original building was demolished in 1992 after those construction workers made their discovery. But the underground facilities? The sublevels that shouldn't exist? They were never found. All run by doctors trained in Dr. Vale's methods. All feeding subjects to sublevel facilities that existed partially in our world and partially somewhere else. Inside was a USB drive containing digitized copies of 12 basement tapes I'd never seen before. Confused individuals arriving with no memory of how they got there. Dr. Vale, or someone who looks exactly like him, despite the fact he'd be over 90 now, conducting the same interviews. References to sublevels and doorways and integration protocols. These were dated 2019 through 2023. Modern recordings from facilities that supposedly don't exist, showing procedures that supposedly ended 30 years ago. An elevator that, according to building plans, opened onto solid concrete. He was never seen again. But it's what he says that provides the next piece of the puzzle. Michael, the integration is remarkable, Doctor. I can feel both timelines now. What happened to them was far worse. They were changed. Some things are too horrible to share. But I'll tell you this, the children weren't killed. In these modern tapes, the subjects all have one thing in common. They're all people who got too close to the truth. Journalists investigating disappearances. Police officers who wouldn't let cold cases go. Whistleblowers who tried to expose the network. Transformed. Made into something that could survive in places human beings were never meant to go. Though I must ask, are you certain about using children? Dr. Vale. And the doorway protocols? Michael. Ready for implementation. The subjects from Sublevel 6 have been prepared. No bodies were ever found. No ransom demands. They simply vanished. Less resistance to the process. Children. Dr. Vale. The younger subjects show 73% better integration rates. Their neural plasticity allows for cleaner pathways. Suddenly, the scattered reports make sense. Between 1974 and 1985, 89 children went missing within a 100-mile radius of Cedar Hollow. The tapes told their story too. I won't describe what was on those recordings. By 1981, Cedar Hollow State Hospital had officially treated over 3,000 patients, not in the way we understand there. You want to know the truly terrifying part? Cedar Hollow is still receiving patients, because they were never really there to begin with. Dr. Marcus Vale disappeared the night before the FBI raid in 1992. Security footage shows him walking into an elevator in the basement. But his work continued. 3 months ago, I received a package with no return address. The intake rooms look different now. Updated technology, better cameras. But the process is the same. But there's a new element. People like me. Which brings me to why I'm sharing this now. Why I'm risking everything to get this story out. 3 days ago, I started experiencing memory gaps. I'll be researching in my office, and suddenly it's hours later. I've checked every record, every database. There is no Cedar Hollow Psychiatric Center. I'm in a different room. My notes are gone. Yesterday, I found a hospital bracelet in my jacket pocket. Cedar Hollow Psychiatric Center, intake pending. The facility doesn't exist. If I disappear, if I suddenly claim this was all a hoax, if I start talking about receiving treatment for paranoid delusions, don't believe it. But the bracelet is real. The appointment date printed on it is tomorrow. And based on references in the newest tapes, they're preparing for something called Final Phase Protocol. Approximately 200,000. We're ahead of schedule. Integration rates exceed 90%. Online friends who went silent. How many more subjects do you need? Not died, not moved away, but simply vanished? Office colleagues who stopped showing up. Neighbors whose houses suddenly stood empty. Map the locations. Look for patterns, because the network isn't random. They'll claim it's fiction, conspiracy theory, the ravings of a disturbed mind. They choose specific individuals for specific reasons. But now we know. Now we can fight back. And if you're watching this, if you're the kind of person who questions official stories and digs for truth, you might already be on their list. I don't know what that means, but tape 347B contains a conversation between Dr. Vale and someone referred to only as the architect. That's 90,000 potential subjects annually. And according to missing persons statistics I've compiled, we're already at 147,000 since 1,974, because they will try to erase it. They might even produce a version of me saying exactly that. No body, no evidence, no explanation. At that rate, they'll reach their goal in less than 2 years. And somewhere, in a sublevel that exists between dimensions, 347 people are trapped on videotape, forever reliving the moment their humanity was stolen. I've uploaded everything to multiple servers, sent copies to journalists around the world, hidden physical documents in places only my family knows about. The network is still operating. They're still taking people, still fighting. And the things that share our world have been farming us like cattle for 50 years. Most are found, but roughly 90,000 aren't. They vanish without a trace. Still warning anyone who will listen. Architect, the doorways are stable. They were records for something inhuman, documentation of a process that treats people like raw material. Dr. Vale, for complete saturation, architect, and the timeline? Dr. Vale, if we maintain current processing rates, full implementation by 2025, humanity won't even realize the transition has occurred. They'll wake up in the new paradigm, believing it was always this way. 200,000 people. That's how many need to disappear before they complete whatever final phase protocol is. Every year, approximately 600,000 people are reported missing in the United States. So I leave you with this question. How many people do you know who've disappeared? Check the dates. The basement tapes were never meant to be found. Share this video. Download it. Save it. Don't believe them. The doorways are real. The network is active. Tomorrow, if my fears are correct, it will be 348. But tonight, for a few more hours, I'm still me. The basement tapes of Cedar Hollow revealed a truth too terrible for most to accept. We are not alone. We have never been alone. The only question now is whether it's too late to stop them. Look for the signs. Trust your instincts. And whatever you do, never go to a hospital you don't remember checking into. Because once you're on tape, once you're in their system, once you've been processed through the doorways in the basement, you never really come back. Even if something wearing your face does.